intent's power today is some of the most basic, but some of the most used use cases of crypto, right? Which is basically your swapping and your bridging of assets, like your value transfer across and on different chains.
Hey, and welcome to the third episode of Talking Intentionally. Today we're speaking with Arjun from LiFi. LiFi and Arjun are some of the biggest names in the intent and solver space. Today we're going to talk about where intents and solvers are and the general landscape of agents in 2024. As you'll notice, this podcast was filmed in an airport. I filmed it on my way to Devcon. So I hope that the quality doesn't bother you at all. We tried our best, and no matter what, we want to maintain that weekly upload schedule. So thanks again for your time, and I hope you enjoy the episode. Be well.
June, it's great seeing you. Thanks for making the time. Little unconventional location to be filming a podcast for me. I just, am traveling to DevCon, so in the airport right now, but we found time to make it work. So thanks for thanks for you taking the time to meet with us and look forward to learning more about Intense. So,
Thanks for having me. And like the grind never stops, right? Like you're literally at the airport recording right now. So I definitely appreciate your time as well.
dude, whenever, man. But before we get too in depth, I'd like for you to just start by like talking about do you mind like telling us what is the general market of intent or agents or solvers as other people talk. They're all interchangeable. How about you talk about what the marketplace looks like and why people use different words for it? I feel like there's just so much confusion in this area, so I'd love to hear your thoughts.
Yeah, I mean, so personally, how I like to think about intents is pretty simple, right? It's basically a user comes to your application, they express a desired outcome, and then a third party, you can call it a solver, an agent, or a relayer, kind of takes care of the rest, right? Like the execution part of it. So I feel like there's a lot of talk about the terminologies, but at the end of the day, it's pretty simple. It's a user's outcome, like the end result being outsourced to sophisticated third parties that take care of the execution, right? And intents more broadly, they have certain simple but very powerful benefits, in my opinion. Like it's basically making one-click DeFi a reality. Like everything about intents is to make the user experience simpler and faster. And in terms of like the landscape, I feel like a lot of the talk around intents is about the end goal, right? Like people talk about or just one-click DeFi in the sense that you have assets on Ethereum, but then you can buy an NFT on Bitcoin. I feel like that's definitely the end goal, but we're not there today, right? Like what intents power today is some of the most basic, but some of the most used use cases of crypto, right? Which is basically your swapping and your bridging of assets, like your value transfer across and on different chains. So I feel like that's where the intent model started in the swapping landscape with CowSwap, 1inch Fusion, Uniswap X. And then once they were like popularized, we already had the design in the bridging ecosystem. But then we started like relating the intents model to bridges like across Connext did it. Today, Relay is an intent-based bridge. So today, like intent landscape is more about swapping and bridging.
Um, so it seems like there are some specific use cases that are like pretty relevant to crypto at this moment. Do you think that those use cases are going to be expanded to, more than just bridging and swapping? There's a big joke about, limit order. Why don't you tell that joke and give a little bit of context into like why people make it and um, what things, like if you believe that joke to be correct or not.
I mean, so the joke is basically like limiting intents to just calling them limit orders, right? I feel like there's a bit of truth to it. Like limit orders are an intent because a user is technically saying that, hey, I want this asset at this specific price. So limit orders are definitely intents, but that's just like scratching the surface of it, right? Like you can exchange any asset for any other asset, and that can also be an intent. So I feel like the joke has merit, but it's blown out of proportion in that sense.
Cool. And then talk about where you see intents kind of going like in the near future. Like where does Web3 look like in like 5 years being powered by intent?
I mean, yeah, so basically we talked about swapping and bridging as the main use cases for intents today, right? So what that's doing, that's like kind of that's basically finding product market fit or like design market fit for intents, and it's generating demand, right? Like in the bridging landscape, for example, initially we just had a cross that was like championing this intent based design. But then today, what we see is that any bridge that's like coming new to the market, they're using the intent based design, right? Because now that's become so popular. So I feel like as intents become more and more popular, this design landscape will only get adopted more and more, right? So today we have swapping and bridging, but then in the future or like in 5 years, we will have more generalized intents being executed. And I feel like that's also the end game for crypto UX. So something like a Kalani or like an Anoma that's working on executing more generalized intents, like let's say a user wants to buy the Bitcoin NFT, or like they want to on ramp and then buy any meme coin on any other chain, right? So like things like that, the user experience will just keep getting better. The number of steps, the number of clicks will keep getting reduced, and I feel like that's the future of DeFi, user experience wise. You can call it chain abstraction or not chain abstraction, but I feel like intents definitely play a big role even in the chain abstraction reality.
So why don't you tell me a little bit more about what you're doing at LiFi and like what LiFi's mission is?
Yeah, so LiFi is basically an aggregator, right? So we aggregate all of the liquidity sources, and then our goal is to kind of make the experience for some of your applications and wallets of like integrating all of these liquidity sources much easier, right? So like let's say you're Phantom, and then you want to facilitate in-app swaps and bridging, right? So like one of your options is to go out and aggregate all of the liquidity sources. But then with someone like LiFi, you can just use us and then we will do all the legwork for you, right? And where intents fit into our design is basically like anything that offers good rates and like a better user experience makes us better. So with intents, our execution quality or like our bridging times or like our execution times have definitely become better. So I feel like that's where the symbiotic relationship between LiFi and aggregator and intent-based liquidity sources comes into the picture.
What does the next 5 years look like for LiFi?
So I feel like our goal at the end of the day is definitely abstraction and aggregation, right? Like aggregate all of the relevant liquidity sources and then abstract the user experience for the developers, for the application builders, and eventually for the users, right? So I feel like our goal is to make DeFi simpler and enabling like execution of any sort of intent, any sort of like buy orders much easier across ecosystems. Like there are so many chains, there are so many assets. So we just want to make buying assets much easier for anyone in crypto, to be honest.
Dude, so and you're obviously a very, big person on Twitter in this little like nascent space, but it is growing. Who are other interesting characters to follow to like learn more about intents and solvers?
I mean, I feel like you said, it's a niche space, right? So you should definitely follow all of the founders of the different protocols that are building in the ecosystem, because founder-led comms are a big thing right now. But it definitely makes sense, right? Like it made sense 2 years ago as well. So you should follow people who are actually building this tech. So you can follow people from across, you can follow people from Catalyst, Relay. Like these are some of the intent-based bridges. And then there are different intent-based protocols in every ecosystem. So yeah, definitely go follow the founders, follow the builders. And when you're reading their tweets, of course, keep in mind that everyone has a bias. Even I have a bias. So as long as you have that filter in your mind, I think you should be fine.
Final question. What are you looking most forward to at Devcon?
To be honest, like just meeting a lot of crypto friends. Like we spend so much time online talking to each other. Like both of us have not met in real life, but we've already interacted. But I feel like just meeting you in person and just meeting friends in person gives you like a better relationship in general, right? And then you can talk about business or you can talk about work. But I just want to have a good time with some of my crypto friends, and of course talk about interop, intents, chain abstraction, and everything in between.
Awesome, man. Well, the Axel team is definitely excited to meet up with you in Devcon and meet up with anyone who's interested in learning more about intents and solvers. So thanks again for your time and for taking part in that pretty hectic podcast appearance.
Thanks a lot for your time.